Have you seen this person? It's really important.
I think I might have.
With me?
Sir, this boy lives in my house.
Maya stood in the marble-floored lobby of Harrington Enterprises, her worn sneakers squeaking against the polished stone as she faced the billionaire Richard Harrington himself. Her hands were shaking, but her voice came out steady and clear. "Sir, that boy lives in my house." Richard froze. His coffee cup hovered halfway to his lips. Behind him, his assistant Patricia gasped. The security guards by the elevator shifted uncomfortably. Everyone in that lobby knew exactly which boy Maya was talking about. Everyone knew that the child Richard Harrington had been searching for desperately, the child who disappeared from the hospital 3 months ago, the child worth a $50 million reward, was apparently living with this 17-year-old black girl in her grandmother's house across town. But what Maya said next made Richard drop his coffee cup entirely. It shattered on the marble floor, splashing hot liquid across his $1,000 shoes. Because Maya's revelation wasn't just about where the boy was, it was about who he really was. And why he'd been living with her family for 3 months without anyone knowing. And the truth was so shocking, so impossible, so completely unexpected that it would change everything Richard Harrington thought he knew about his family, his fortune, and his future. "The boy you're looking for," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper now. "He's not who you think he is. And sir, he's not the only one." Richard stared at this teenage girl standing in his lobby, her backpack slung over one shoulder, her grandmother's address written on a crumpled piece of paper in her hand. And for the first time in his 52 years of life, Richard Harrington had absolutely no idea what to do next. But to understand how Maya Johnson ended up in that lobby, how a 17-year-old girl from the South Side came to hold the key to a billionaire's biggest mystery, we need to go back. Back 3 months, back to the day everything changed. Back to when Maya's grandmother Betty opened her front door and found a small boy standing on the porch in the rain. 3 months earlier, Maya had been having the worst week of her life. Her mother had died 2 years ago from cancer. Her father had never been in the picture. She lived with her grandmother Betty in a small 3-bedroom house in a neighborhood where gunshots were more common than birdsong. Maya worked 2 jobs after school to help with rent. She was trying to save money for college, but every month, something came up. The water heater broke. Grandma Betty needed medicine. The car needed repairs. Maya's college fund kept shrinking instead of growing. On top of everything else, Maya had just failed her chemistry test. Not because she was dumb, but because she'd worked a double shift at the diner the night before and fallen asleep during the exam. Her teacher, Mr. Phillips, had looked at her with disappointment. "You're smarter than this, Maya. You could get a scholarship to any school in the country if you just focus." But Mr. Phillips didn't understand. Nobody at school understood. They didn't know what it was like to choose between studying and eating, between homework and helping Grandma Betty with her medications, between sleep and survival. Maya was walking home from school that Tuesday afternoon, her backpack heavy with textbooks she probably wouldn't have time to read, when she saw the police cars, 3 of them, parked in front of her house. Her heart dropped into her stomach. Grandma Betty. Something had happened to Grandma Betty. Maya ran the last block, her lungs burning, her vision blurring with tears. She burst through the gate and up the porch steps. "Grandma, Grandma, are you okay?" The front door opened, and Grandma Betty appeared, perfectly fine, holding a small boy's hand. The boy looked about 5 years old. He had light brown skin, curly black hair, and the biggest, saddest brown eyes Maya had ever seen. He was wearing expensive clothes, dirty and torn, and he was trembling like a leaf in the wind. "I'm fine, baby," Grandma Betty said calmly. "But this young man here needs our help." One of the police officers stepped forward, Officer Rodriguez, a woman Maya recognized from the neighborhood. "Miss Johnson, your grandmother found this child on your porch about an hour ago. He won't tell us his name, won't tell us where he came from. We've checked missing persons reports, but nothing matches. We were about to take him to child services when your grandmother insisted she could care for him tonight while we continue investigating." Maya looked at the boy. He was staring at her with those huge eyes, and something in Maya's chest twisted. He looked terrified, lost, alone. Exactly how Maya had felt when her mother died. Of course we'll help, Maya heard herself saying. He can stay as long as he needs. Officer Rodriguez looked relieved. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow with more questions. In the meantime, if he says anything, tells you anything about where he came from, call us immediately. She handed Grandma Betty a card with a phone number. After the police left, Grandma Betty led the boy inside. Maya followed, closing the door behind them. The house suddenly felt different. Smaller. Fuller. Like something important had just been added. What's your name, sweetheart? Grandma Betty asked gently, kneeling down to the boy's level. The boy didn't answer, just stared at her with those heartbreaking eyes. Are you hungry? Maya tried. We have food. You must be hungry. The boy nodded slightly. His first communication. They fed him soup and crackers. He ate slowly, carefully, like he wasn't sure if the food would be taken away. Maya watched him and felt something fierce and protective rise in her chest. Whoever this kid was, whatever had happened to him, nobody was going to hurt him again. Not on her watch. That night, Maya made up the couch for the boy with clean sheets and her softest blanket. He clutched the blanket like a lifeline. Grandma Betty sat beside him, humming the same song she'd hummed to Maya when she was little and scared. Slowly, the boy's eyes closed. He fell asleep, finally looking peaceful. We're doing the right thing, aren't we? Maya whispered to her grandmother in the kitchen. We're doing the only thing, Grandma Betty replied. That child needs help. We have help to give. It's that simple. But it wasn't simple. Not at all. Because the next morning, Maya woke up to find the boy sitting at their kitchen table, drawing. He'd found Maya's art supplies from her abandoned painting hobby and was creating the most incredible picture Maya had ever seen. It was a house, a big house, with towers and windows and gardens. And standing in front of the house was a man who looked vaguely familiar, though Maya couldn't place why. That's beautiful, Maya said softly, not wanting to startle him. The boy looked up at her. And then, for the first time, he spoke. His voice was small and scared, but clear. Home. I want to go home. Where is home? Maya asked gently. Can you tell me where you live? The boy pointed at the man in the drawing. With him. But the bad people took me. They said they'd hurt him if I told anyone. So I ran away. I ran and ran until I couldn't run anymore. And then I found your house. Maya's blood ran cold. Bad people took you, like kidnapped you? The boy nodded. They wanted money from him. Lots and lots of money. They kept me in a dark room, but I escaped, through a window. I'm little, so I could fit. Maya immediately called Officer Rodriguez. Within an hour, there were detectives at the house, FBI agents, people in suits, asking the boy gentle questions. But the boy wouldn't talk to them. He'd only talk to Maya and Grandma Betty. Every time someone else tried to speak to him, he'd shut down completely, becoming silent and still as a statue. Finally, one of the FBI agents pulled Maya aside. We need you to ask him questions. Find out who he is, where he came from, who he is in the drawing. Can you do that? Maya looked at the boy, who was sitting on Grandma Betty's lap, holding on to her like she was the only safe thing in the world. I can try, but I'm not going to push him. He's been through enough. We understand, the agent said. But Maya, if this child was really kidnapped, his family is probably desperate to find him. Every hour we don't know who he is another hour they're suffering. That made sense. Maya sat down next to the boy. Hey, can I call you something? A name? Even if it's not your real name? The boy thought about it. Call me Danny. Okay, Danny. I like that name. Danny, the man in your picture. What's his name? Danny's eyes filled with tears. I'm not supposed to tell. The bad people said they'd hurt him. The bad people are gone, Maya said softly. You escaped. You're safe now. And we can help protect the man in the picture. But we need to know who he is. Danny was quiet for a long time. Then, so quietly Maya almost missed it, he whispered, Father. The FBI agent nearby perked up. His father? Can you ask him his father's name? But before Maya could ask, Danny pulled away, shaking his head violently. No, no, no. Can't tell. Can't tell. They'll hurt him. They said so. No matter how much Maya tried, Danny wouldn't say anything else. The FBI agents left frustrated. Officer Rodriguez looked defeated. And Maya was left with a traumatized 5-year-old who refused to reveal his identity. Days turned into weeks. The police investigation went nowhere. They ran Danny's fingerprints, but he wasn't in any database. They showed him pictures of missing children, but none matched. They asked if he recognized any local landmarks. Nothing. It was like Danny had appeared out of thin air. Meanwhile, Danny slowly started to trust Maya and Grandma Betty more. He helped with small chores. He laughed at Grandma Betty's jokes. He sat with Maya while she did her homework, drawing pictures beside her. He was smart, really smart. He could read at a level way beyond 5 years old. He knew things about science and history that amazed Maya. "Where did you learn all this?" Maya asked one evening as Danny explained how solar panels worked. "Father taught me," Danny said simply. "He teaches me lots of things. He says education is important. He says learning makes you free." "Your father sounds like a smart man," Maya said. "He's the smartest," Danny said with pride. Then his face fell. "I miss him. I miss him so much. Do you think he's looking for me?" Maya's heart broke. "I'm sure he is, Danny. I'm sure he hasn't stopped looking for 1 second." What Maya didn't know was that she was absolutely right. Because across town, in a mansion worth $30 million, Richard Harrington was destroying his life trying to find his missing son. Richard had been at a business conference in Chicago when he got the call. His son had been taken from his hospital bed during a routine checkup. The kidnappers had somehow bypassed security, grabbed the boy, and disappeared. They'd called Richard 2 hours later, demanding $50 million in ransom. Richard had paid immediately, wired the money without hesitation. He would have paid $500 million. He would have paid everything. But the kidnappers never returned his son. They took the money and vanished. No phone calls, no messages, nothing. The police said the kidnappers probably panicked when they realized how much media attention the case was getting. Richard Harrington was famous. His companies were worth billions. His family was constantly in the news. The kidnapping of Richard Harrington's son became the biggest story in the country, which meant the kidnappers couldn't just return the boy without getting caught. So they either killed him or they dumped him somewhere, hoping he'd never be found. The police searched for weeks. They had leads, suspects, theories, but no boy. Richard offered a $50 million reward for information leading to his son's return. Every psychic, every con artist, every desperate person in America called with tips, all of them useless. Richard stopped going to work, stopped eating, stopped sleeping. His assistant Patricia practically moved into his house just to make sure he stayed alive. His friends worried he was having a breakdown. His business partners worried the company would collapse. But Richard didn't care about the company, didn't care about money or power or anything except finding his son. His beautiful, brilliant, kind son who loved science and art and learning. His son who'd lost his mother to a car accident when he was just 2 years old. His son who was all Richard had left in the world. Every night, Richard stood at the window of his son's bedroom, looking out at the city, and promised whoever was listening that he'd never stop searching, never stop hoping, never stop believing his boy was out there somewhere, waiting to come home. And he was right. His son was out there, living with Maya and Grandma Betty, learning to smile again, learning to feel safe again, drawing pictures and asking questions, and slowly, very slowly, starting to heal. But Danny still wouldn't reveal his identity. And as weeks turned into months, the police case went cold. Officer Rodriguez stopped by less frequently. The FBI agents moved on to other cases, and Maya's life settled into a new routine. School, work, homework, taking care of Danny. It was exhausting, but Maya didn't mind. Having Danny around made the house feel less empty, made Maya feel less alone. Grandma Betty officially became Danny's foster parent through the state. The social workers did home checks. They asked Danny questions. He still wouldn't tell them his real name or where he came from, but he clearly loved living with Maya and Grandma Betty. So they approved the arrangement temporarily while the investigation continued. Maya grew to love Danny like a little brother. She helped him with reading, took him to the park, taught him to ride the old bicycle they found at a garage sale. Danny thrived. He put on weight. His nightmares became less frequent. He started acting like a normal, happy kid. But sometimes, late at night, Maya would hear Danny crying. She'd go to his room and find him clutching his blanket, tears streaming down his face. "I miss Father," he'd sob. "Why hasn't he found me? Doesn't he love me anymore?" "He loves you," Maya would promise, holding Danny close. "Wherever he is, I know he loves you, and someday you'll see him again. I promise." Maya had no idea how she'd keep that promise, but she meant it with every fiber of her being. Then one Saturday morning, everything changed. Maya was making pancakes when Danny came into the kitchen carrying his backpack. He set it on the table and pulled out a piece of paper. "What's that?" Maya asked. "A picture," Danny said, "from the newspaper. Grandma Betty was using it to wrap her flowers." Maya looked at the paper. It was old, yellowed, probably from months ago, and on the front page was a photograph of a man standing in front of a building. The headline read, "Harrington Enterprises donates $10 million to Children's Hospital." Maya's blood turned to ice, because the man in the photograph was the same man Danny had drawn in that very first picture. The man he called Father. Richard Harrington, billionaire, philanthropist, CEO of Harrington Enterprises. And then everything clicked into place. The expensive clothes Danny had been wearing, his advanced education, his careful manners, the massive police response, the FBI involvement. The media frenzy about a kidnapped boy 3 months ago that had eventually faded from the news when no body was found and no new leads developed. Maya remembered that story. Everybody did. The billionaire's son who'd been taken from a hospital, who disappeared despite a $50 million ransom being paid, who everyone assumed was probably dead. But he wasn't dead. He was standing in Maya's kitchen, eating pancakes, very much alive. "Danny," Maya said carefully, her hands shaking. "Is this your father?" Danny looked at the picture and burst into tears. "Yes, that's him. That's Father. I told you I wanted to go home. Please, Maya. Please. Can we go home now? I've been good. I've been so good. I just want to see Father again." Maya's mind was racing. She should call the police, the FBI, someone, but Danny had been so traumatized, so scared. What if returning him to his old life triggered something? What if the kidnappers were still out there? What if this was dangerous? But then she looked at Danny's face, at the desperate hope in his eyes, at the longing and pain and pure love, and Maya knew what she had to do. "Yes," Maya said, kneeling down and taking Danny's hands. "We can go home. We'll go today, right now. I'll take you to your father myself." Danny threw his arms around Maya's neck. Thank you. I knew you'd help me. I knew it." Grandma Betty came into the kitchen and saw them hugging. "What's going on?" Maya showed her the newspaper, explained what she'd figured out. Grandma Betty's eyes went wide. "Lord have mercy. That poor man. He must be out of his mind with worry. We need to take Danny to him right away." 2 hours later, Maya stood in that marble lobby, with Danny's hand in hers, facing Richard Harrington himself. The billionaire had rushed down from his office the moment his assistant told him a young woman was claiming to have information about his son. Richard looked terrible. He'd lost weight. His expensive suit hung loosely on his frame. His eyes were red-rimmed and exhausted. But when he saw Danny, really saw him, everything stopped. "Christopher?" Richard whispered, his voice breaking. "Christopher, is that really you?" Danny let go of Maya's hand and ran straight into his father's arms. Father, I came home. I found my way back." Richard fell to his knees, holding his son, sobbing so hard his whole body shook. "My boy, my beautiful boy, I thought I'd lost you forever. I thought I'd never see you again. I wanted to come sooner," Danny cried. "But I was scared. The bad people said they'd hurt you, and I didn't know where I was. But Maya and Grandma Betty kept me safe. They helped me. They loved me." Richard looked up at Maya, tears streaming down his face. "You saved him. You saved my son. How can I ever repay you?" But Maya wasn't looking at Richard. She was looking at Christopher, because that was his real name, not Danny. And she was seeing something that made her stomach twist with dread. Standing behind Richard were 3 men in suits. Security, probably, or assistants. But one of them, the tall one with a scar above his eyebrow, was staring at Christopher with an expression Maya recognized. An expression she'd seen before, 3 months ago, when Christopher had drawn that first picture. It was the expression of someone who'd thought they'd gotten away with something, and just realized they hadn't. The man's hand moved toward his jacket. Maya's instincts, honed by years of living in a dangerous neighborhood, screamed at her. "Get down!" Maya yelled, throwing herself at Richard and Christopher, knocking them to the ground just as the man pulled out a gun. The lobby erupted into chaos. Security guards drew weapons, people screamed, and Maya found herself covering Christopher's body with her own, while Richard covered both of them, trying to protect his son, even though he had no idea what was happening or why. 3 gunshots rang out. Then, silence. When Maya finally looked up, the man with the scar was on the ground, disarmed and subdued by security. 2 other men were also being restrained. Accomplices who'd been hiding in the building. Officer Rodriguez came running through the door, weapon drawn, responding to a silent alarm. She took one look at the scene and immediately started calling for backup. "Maya?" Christopher whispered, his voice shaking. "Maya, what's happening?" "It's okay," Maya said, even though her heart was pounding and her ears were ringing. "You're safe. You're safe now. I promise." But even as she said it, even as police flooded the building and the 3 men were arrested and Richard held his son like he'd never let go again, Maya knew this wasn't over. Because the man with the scar, as he was being dragged away, had looked directly at Christopher and said words that made everyone in the lobby freeze. "You were never supposed to come back. The deal was already made. You were supposed to stay disappeared. Your father agreed. He gave you up." "That's a lie," Richard shouted. "I never agreed to anything. I paid the ransom." "The ransom?" The man laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. "Sir, there was no ransom. There was a deal. A deal you made 3 months before the kidnapping. A deal to get rid of the boy permanently in exchange for—" "Shut up!" another voice shouted, and Maya's blood ran cold as she recognized it. Patricia, Richard's assistant, the woman who'd been by his side through everything, the woman who'd helped him search for his son, the woman everyone trusted. She was standing by the elevator with her hand in her purse, and the look on her face told Maya everything she needed to know. Patricia had been part of the kidnapping. But it wasn't just a kidnapping. It was something worse, something more complicated, something involving Richard himself. And Christopher, young as he was, seemed to understand too, because he pulled away from his father slightly and looked up at Richard with confusion and hurt. "Father? What deal? What is he talking about?" Richard looked completely lost. "Son, I don't know. I don't understand. I never made any deal. I would never." "Show him the papers," Patricia said quietly, her voice deadly. "Show him the papers he signed when Christopher's mother died. The life insurance papers. The trust fund papers. The papers that made sure every dollar of Christopher's inheritance would go to you if anything happened to the boy. The papers you signed drunk and grieving and angry. The papers that gave you a reason to want your son gone." The lobby went absolutely silent. Every person there was staring at Richard, waiting, judging. Richard's face had gone white as paper. "I was drunk, I was grieving. I didn't mean, I never would have actually." He looked down at his son, horror and shame written across his features. "Christopher, you have to believe me. I love you. I would never hurt you. Those papers mean nothing. You're worth more than any amount of money." But Christopher was looking at his father like he was seeing him for the first time. Like everything he'd believed had just shattered, and Maya's heart broke for both of them. "Sir," Maya said quietly, "that boy lives in my house." Everyone turned to look at her. "He's been living with my grandmother and me for 3 months. In that time, I've gotten to know him. I've seen who he really is. And I need to tell you something. Something he wouldn't tell the police, or the FBI, or anyone except me and Grandma Betty." "What?" Richard asked desperately. "What is it?" "Your son told me there was another boy," Maya said. "Another child. That the kidnappers had 2 children in that house. Not just one. Christopher escaped, but the other boy couldn't. The other boy was too big to fit through the window. Sir, your son has been carrying that guilt for 3 months. The guilt of leaving someone behind. The guilt of being free, while another child is still trapped." Richard's eyes widened. "Another child? Who?" "That's what I need to tell you," Maya said. And then she revealed the truth that would change everything. Sir, the other boy? He's not just any child. He's Christopher's brother, his twin brother. The brother everyone thought died at birth. The brother, you were told, didn't survive, but he did survive. And the people who kidnapped Christopher have had his twin brother for 5 years. They've been using him as leverage, as insurance, as a way to control your family without you even knowing. The lobby erupted into chaos again. Richard staggered backward like he'd been shot. Patricia lunged for the elevator, but security grabbed her. The man with the scar started laughing, a horrible sound that echoed off the marble walls. And Christopher, sweet 5-year-old Christopher who'd been through so much, looked up at Maya with tears streaming down his face, and said the words that confirmed everything Maya had just revealed. His name is Philip, and they're going to kill him if we don't go back, they told me. They said if I ever told anyone, if I ever escaped, they'd kill Philip. That's why I couldn't say anything. That's why I couldn't go home, because going home means Philip dies. And I can't let that happen. I can't. He's my brother, my twin brother, and I won't leave him behind again. The entire lobby seemed to hold its breath, and Maya realized that bringing Christopher home wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning. The FBI command center set up in Richard Harrington's mansion looked like something out of a movie. Agents hunched over laptops, phones rang constantly, maps covered every wall, and in the middle of it all sat Christopher, still holding Maya's hand, like she was the only thing keeping him grounded. Richard stood nearby, looking like a man who'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Everything he thought he knew about his life had just been ripped apart. Special Agent Victoria Chen was leading the operation. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude that made even Richard Harrington snap to attention when she spoke. Christopher, I need you to tell me everything you remember about the house where they kept you. Every detail, no matter how small. Christopher squeezed Maya's hand tighter. Can Maya stay? I can't do this without her. Of course she can stay, Agent Chen said, then looked at Maya. You're the one who figured this out. The one he trusts. You're part of this operation now. Whether you plan to be or not. Maya felt overwhelmed. Just this morning she'd been making pancakes. Now she was sitting in a billionaire's mansion helping the FBI rescue a kidnapped child. I'll help however I can. Christopher took a shaky breath and began describing the house. It was old, the windows were broken, there were rats in the walls. Philip and I shared a room in the basement. It was always cold. They gave us one blanket to share. Philip always made sure I got the bigger half because I'm smaller. Richard made a choked sound. Learning he had another son, a son who'd been suffering for 5 years, was destroying him. How did they treat you? Did they hurt you? They didn't hit us, Christopher said carefully. But they scared us. The woman with the red hair would scream a lot. And the man with the scar, the one from your office, he would tell us stories about what happens to boys who don't listen. Bad stories. Philip tried to protect me from the stories. He'd cover my ears when the man came. The woman with red hair, Agent Chen said, writing quickly. What was her name? They called her Red. I don't know her real name. She was mean, but not as mean as the man. There were others too. A skinny man who smoked, a lady who cooked but never smiled, and Christopher's voice dropped to a whisper, and sometimes Patricia would visit. Everyone turned to look at the corner where Patricia sat in handcuffs, 2 agents guarding her. She'd been caught trying to escape through the building's basement. Now she refused to speak, refused to look at anyone, just stared at the wall with cold eyes. Patricia visited you? Richard's voice was dangerous. My assistant, the woman I trusted with everything. She knew where you were the whole time? She brought us books sometimes, Christopher said. She wasn't as mean as the others, but she never helped us leave. Philip asked her to help us, begged her, but she always said no. She said it was for the best, that everything would work out eventually. Richard looked at Patricia with pure hatred. You watched me suffer, watched me fall apart looking for my son, and you knew where he was all along? Patricia finally spoke, her voice flat. You don't understand. None of you understand. This was supposed to save everyone. The plan was perfect until this boy ruined it by escaping. What plan? Agent Chen demanded. Start talking or you're looking at life in prison for kidnapping, conspiracy, and about 20 other charges. Patricia laughed, but there was no humor in it. Life in prison? I'm already looking at that. Why would I help you now? Because there's still a child out there, Maya said suddenly, standing up. A 5-year-old boy who's probably terrified, who's probably been punished because his brother escaped, who's probably wondering if anyone's coming to save him. You brought him books. That means you cared a little bit, right? That means you're not completely heartless. Something flickered across Patricia's face. Guilt? Regret? Maya couldn't tell. But Patricia leaned forward slightly. If I tell you where Philip is, I want immunity. Absolutely not, Richard said immediately. You don't get to negotiate, not after what you've done. Then that boy stays lost, Patricia said coldly. The others will move him the second they realize Christopher is here. They have safe houses, backup plans. You'll never find him without my help, so decide, Mr. Harrington. Your pride or your son. The room went silent. Richard looked like he wanted to strangle Patricia with his bare hands. But he also looked at Christopher, at this brave child who'd survived so much, and Maya could see the moment he made his choice. Give her immunity, Richard said through clenched teeth. Find my son. Agent Chen made some calls. Lawyers arrived. Papers were signed. And finally, Patricia gave them an address. An abandoned factory on the south side, not far from where Maya and Grandma Betty lived. The FBI mobilized immediately. I'm coming, Richard said, grabbing his jacket. Absolutely not, Agent Chen said. This is a tactical operation. Civilians stay here. That's my son in there, Richard said. I'm not a civilian. I'm his father. And I've missed 5 years of his life. I'm not missing another minute. They argued for several minutes before Agent Chen finally agreed to let Richard come, but only in a support vehicle, staying back from the actual raid. Then, Christopher spoke up. I want to come too. Philip will be scared. He'll need to see me. He'll need to know I came back for him. Absolutely not, both Richard and Agent Chen said together. Philip saved my life, Christopher said, his voice stronger than Maya had ever heard it. When I was scared, he told me stories. When I was hungry, he gave me his food. When I had nightmares, he sang to me. The songs our mother sang. The songs he somehow remembered even though he was only a baby when she died. He's my brother, my twin, and I'm not letting him face this alone. Maya watched this 5-year-old boy stand up to a room full of adults, demanding to help save his brother, and felt something fierce and proud in her chest. I'll go with him, Maya said. I'll keep him safe. I promise. You're 17, Agent Chen pointed out. You're a child yourself. I'm the one he trusts, Maya said. I'm the one who got him to talk when nobody else could. And if Philip is anything like Christopher, he's not going to trust a bunch of FBI agents in tactical gear. He's going to need someone who feels safe. Let us help. More arguing, more phone calls, more lawyers. Finally, a compromise. Christopher and Maya could come. But they'd stay in the vehicle with Richard until the building was secured. Only then could they approach. 30 minutes later, Maya found herself in a bulletproof FBI vehicle racing through the streets toward the south side. Christopher sat pressed against her side, his little body rigid with tension. Richard sat across from them, his hands clenched into fists, his face pale. Mr. Harrington, Maya said quietly. Can I ask you something? Call me Richard, he said. And yes, the papers Patricia mentioned, the ones about Christopher's inheritance, were they real? Richard closed his eyes. Yes, they were real. When my wife died, I was destroyed. We'd been high school sweethearts. She was everything to me. And suddenly, she was gone, killed by a drunk driver, and I was left alone with a 2-year-old son. I fell apart, started drinking, started making terrible decisions. My lawyer presented those papers during an estate planning meeting. I barely read them before signing. I was drunk and angry and not thinking clearly. But I never would have acted on them. Christopher is my whole world. But someone saw those papers and got an idea, Maya said, piecing it together. Someone saw a way to make money and hurt you at the same time. Patricia, Richard said bitterly. She must have found them in my files. She had access to everything, and she used them to create this whole nightmare. Why, though? Maya asked. What did she have to gain? Money, a voice said from the front of the vehicle. One of the FBI agents. We've been digging into Patricia's finances. She's been embezzling from Harrington Enterprises for years. Millions of dollars. She knew eventually you'd figure it out, Mr. Harrington. So she created a distraction. A kidnapping. She probably planned to find Christopher, eventually be the hero, and in all the chaos, her embezzlement would be overlooked. But something went wrong, Maya said. Christopher escaped before she was ready. Exactly, the agent confirmed. The plan fell apart. Now she's trying to salvage what she can. They arrived at the factory. It was massive and decrepit. Windows shattered, walls covered in graffiti. Maya's stomach churned. A child had been living here? For 5 years? The FBI tactical team moved in first. Maya watched through the vehicle's reinforced windows as agents in body armor entered the building. Long minutes passed. Each one felt like an hour. Christopher pressed his face against the glass, his breath fogging it up, his whole body trembling. "I'm scared," Christopher whispered. "What if they already moved him? What if Patricia lied?" "She didn't lie," Richard said, pulling Christopher onto his lap. "And even if she did, we won't stop looking. I promise you, son. We will find your brother." A voice crackled over the radio. "Building secure. 2 suspects in custody. No sign of the child." Maya's heart sank. Christopher made a sound like a wounded animal. Richard's face crumbled. But then the radio crackled again. "Wait. We've got something. Hidden room in the basement. Locked from the outside. We're breaching now." The next 30 seconds were the longest of Maya's life. She held Christopher tight, both of them hardly breathing. Richard had his eyes squeezed shut, his lips moving in what might have been a prayer. "We've got him," the radio suddenly announced. "We've got the boy. He's alive, malnourished, and scared, but alive. Requesting immediate medical." Christopher was out of the vehicle before anyone could stop him, running toward the factory entrance. Maya and Richard ran after him. FBI agents tried to slow them down, but Christopher was fast and determined and wouldn't be stopped. They found him in the basement, having somehow navigated past all the agents, standing in front of a small room that had been hidden behind a false wall. And in that room, wrapped in a dirty blanket, was another boy. He looked exactly like Christopher. Same face, same hair, same eyes. But where Christopher had filled out over the past 3 months with Maya's care, this boy was painfully thin. His clothes were rags, his face was smudged with dirt, but he was alive. "Philip," Christopher breathed. Philip looked up, saw Christopher, and his face transformed from hopeless despair to pure joy. "Christopher? You came back? You really came back?" "I promised I would," Christopher said, walking slowly into the room. "I promised I'd find help. I promised I wouldn't leave you forever." The twins embraced, both crying, and there wasn't a dry eye in that basement. Maya watched Richard fall to his knees, staring at the 2 sons he now had, and saw the exact moment his heart broke and healed at the same time. "Philip," Richard said softly, "I'm your father. And I am so sorry. Sorry I didn't know about you. Sorry I couldn't protect you. Sorry for everything you've suffered. But I'm here now. And I swear to you, nothing will ever hurt you again." Philip looked at this strange man, confusion and fear crossing his face. But Christopher took Philip's hand and said, "It's okay. He's our dad. He's good. And we're going home. Together, finally." Paramedics arrived to check Philip over. He was dehydrated, malnourished, and had some old injuries that had healed wrong. But physically, he'd survive. Emotionally, mentally, that would take longer. Much longer. As they were loading Philip into an ambulance, Christopher still refusing to leave his side, a FBI agent pulled Maya aside. "We need to know everything you know about this case. Every detail. You're the key witness to a lot of this." "I'll tell you everything," Maya promised. "But first, can I ask something? The people who did this, Patricia and the others, will they really go to prison?" "For the rest of their lives," the agent confirmed. "Kidnapping, extortion, child endangerment, conspiracy. They're done." Maya nodded, satisfied. Justice would be served. They all returned to Richard's mansion. Doctors examined Philip thoroughly, while Christopher sat beside him, holding his hand, refusing to leave for even a moment. Richard hovered nearby, trying to figure out how to be a father to 2 traumatized boys instead of 1. As night fell, Maya found herself sitting in Richard's enormous living room, completely exhausted. Grandma Betty had been brought to the mansion, worried about Maya. She sat beside her granddaughter now, both of them trying to process the insane day they'd had. "You did good today, baby," Grandma Betty said. "You saved those boys. I just brought Christopher home, Maya said. The FBI did the rest. Don't sell yourself short, Richard said, walking into the room. Christopher wouldn't have told anyone the truth without you. Philip would still be in that basement. My family would still be broken. You fixed what I couldn't. What I didn't even know was broken. He sat down across from them, and Maya saw he'd been crying. I need to ask you something. Christopher wants you to stay. Both of you. He says he's scared of this big house. Scared of all the strangers. He needs someone familiar nearby while he and Philip adjust. Would you consider staying here, just for a while? I have plenty of rooms, and I'd pay you, of course, for your time, for everything you've already done. We don't need payment, Grandma Betty interrupted. But we'll stay. Those boys need familiar faces. They need people they trust. We can give them that. Relief flooded Richard's face. Thank you, truly. A noise from the hallway made everyone turn. Christopher and Philip stood there, both in borrowed pajamas that were too big for them. They looked so small and lost in this massive house. Christopher spoke first. Can Maya put us to bed, like she did at her house? Of course, Maya said, standing. She took both boys' hands and led them to the bedroom Richard had prepared. It had 2 beds, positioned close together so the twins wouldn't have to be apart. As Maya tucked them in, Philip spoke for the first time to her. Christopher told me about you. He said you were kind. He said you saved him. Thank you for saving my brother. I'm glad I could help, Maya said. And Philip, you're safe now. Both of you are. I know it doesn't feel real yet, but it is. No one's going to hurt you anymore. But what about Father? Philip asked, his voice small. Christopher says he's good. But the people who kept us said Father was the one who didn't want us. That he paid them to take us away. Was that true? Maya's heart ached. No, sweetie. That was a lie. Your father loves you, both of you, so much. He's been looking for Christopher every single day since he was taken. And now that he knows about you, he's going to love you just as much. You'll see. Philip didn't look entirely convinced, but he nodded. The boys held hands across the space between their beds, and slowly, their eyes closed. Maya stood to leave, but Christopher called her back. Maya, will you be here in the morning? Promise? I promise, Maya said. I'm not going anywhere. As she closed the door, Maya heard Philip whisper to Christopher, she's nice. I like her. Maybe this will be okay. It will be, Christopher whispered back. Maya promised, and Maya always keeps her promises. Maya walked back downstairs to find Richard waiting. They asleep? Finally, Maya said. They're exhausted. Emotionally and physically. I don't know how to do this, Richard admitted. I barely knew how to raise one child. Now, I have 2. 2 traumatized boys who've been through hell. What if I mess this up? What if I'm not enough? You don't have to be enough alone, Maya said. You have help, doctors, therapists, us, and Mr. Harrington. Richard, you already love them. That's the most important part. The rest, you'll figure out. Richard looked at this 17-year-old girl who'd stumbled into his life and changed everything. How did you get so wise? Life taught me, Maya said simply. When my mom died, I had to grow up fast, had to learn that love matters more than money, that family is who you choose, not just who you're related to, that helping people, even when it's hard, is always the right choice. I want to do something for you, Richard said. Beyond just paying you to stay, you saved my family. Let me help yours. College tuition. A new house for your grandmother. Whatever you need. I don't need charity, Maya said, her pride flaring. I'm not trying to be rude, but I've worked for everything I have. I don't want handouts. It's not charity, Richard said. It's gratitude. And besides, Christopher and Philip are going to need stability. Familiar faces. People they trust. I'm hoping you'll consider being part of their lives long term, not as an employee, but as family. Which means investing in your future is investing in theirs. Maya wanted to argue, but she couldn't deny the logic. And more than that, she couldn't deny that she cared about those 2 boys upstairs, cared about them deeply. The thought of walking away, of never seeing them again, hurt. I'll think about it, Maya said finally. That's all I ask, Richard said. A phone rang. Richard answered it, his face darkening as he listened. When he hung up, he looked grim. That was Agent Chen. The other kidnappers have been arrested. 5 people total, including Patricia. They found evidence of the whole operation. Plans, communications, financial records, everything. That's good, right? Maya asked. Yes, but there's something else. Something Patricia revealed during her interrogation. Richard paused, seeming to struggle with the words. The twins weren't supposed to survive past birth. When my wife was pregnant, there were complications. The doctor said one of the babies, Philip, had developmental issues, said he might not survive delivery, and if he did, he'd have severe disabilities. We were heartbroken, but we prepared ourselves. Then my wife went into labor early. There was an emergency C-section. Christopher was born healthy. But Philip, the doctor said he didn't make it, showed us a death certificate, let us mourn. Except, it was all a lie. Maya felt sick. What do you mean, a lie? The doctor who delivered them, Dr. Morrison, was working with Patricia. Philip was born perfectly healthy, but they told us he died. Took him away. And Patricia has been raising him in secret for 5 years, planning to use him as leverage if she ever needed it. That's why Philip knows things about our family. Why he knew songs from my wife. Patricia would visit him, teach him things, keep him connected just enough to be useful. Maya couldn't find words horrific enough. That's evil, pure evil. Dr. Morrison has been arrested too, Richard said, along with the nurse who helped. They'll all face justice. But Philip lost 5 years of his life. 5 years of safety and love and family because of their greed. They sat in heavy silence. Then Richard said something that surprised Maya. Philip asked about you in therapy today. The therapist brought in to do initial assessments. Asked who you were. The therapist said Philip called you Christopher's angel. Said Christopher talked about you so much that Philip felt like he already knew you. That's why he trusted you immediately. Maya felt tears prick her eyes. Those boys deserve so much better than what they got. They deserve you, Richard said simply. Please, Maya, stay. Help me help them. I'm begging you. Maya looked up at the ceiling, toward the room where 2 little boys were sleeping. Finally safe, finally together, finally home. And she knew, despite all her pride and independence and determination to make her own way, that she couldn't walk away from this. Okay, Maya said, I'll stay. For them, for as long as they need me. Richard's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. But before they could say anything else, a scream shattered the quiet of the mansion. Both Maya and Richard were running up the stairs before they even consciously decided to move. They burst into the twins' room to find Philip thrashing in his bed, caught in a nightmare, while Christopher tried desperately to wake him. Philip, wake up, you're safe, we're home. Christopher was crying, shaking his brother. Maya rushed to Philip's side. Philip, honey, it's Maya. You're not in the factory. You're in your father's house. You're safe. Christopher is here. I'm here. You're safe. Philip's eyes flew open. For a moment, he looked terrified, disoriented. Then he saw Christopher and Maya and Richard, and reality seemed to crash back in. He burst into sobs, and Maya pulled him into her arms, rocking him like Grandma Betty used to rock her. They're coming back, Philip cried. In my dream, they came back. They took Christopher again, and me, and you couldn't stop them, Father. Nobody could stop them. Just a dream, Richard said, sitting on the other side of the bed. Just a bad dream, son. They're in jail. They can't hurt you anymore. But what if they get out? Philip asked. What if they find us? Then I'll protect you, Richard said. We'll all protect you. This whole house is secured. There are guards outside, alarms everywhere. Nobody gets in unless I say so. You are safe, Philip, I swear it. Philip slowly calmed down, still clutching Maya's hand. Will you stay? He asked her. Tonight, will you stay in our room? So, if I have more nightmares, you'll be here? Maya looked at Richard, who nodded immediately. Of course, Maya said. I'll stay right here. She ended up sleeping in a chair between the 2 beds, a hand stretched out to each boy. It was uncomfortable, and her back would hurt in the morning. But every time one of them stirred, Maya was there to whisper reassurance, to promise safety, to remind them they weren't alone anymore. And as dawnlight started creeping through the windows, as the boys finally slept peacefully, Maya realized something important. This was her purpose. This was what she was meant to do. Not just survive, but help others survive too. Not just live, but teach others how to truly live. She'd thought her life was about working 2 jobs and saving for college and taking care of Grandma Betty. But maybe it was about more than that. Maybe it was about being exactly where she needed to be, exactly when she needed to be there, so she could help 2 boys who desperately needed someone to believe in them. Maya closed her eyes, exhausted but content. Whatever happened next, she'd face it. With Richard, with Grandma Betty, with Christopher and Philip. Together. Like family. But Maya had no idea that the hardest part wasn't over yet, because the next morning would bring a revelation that would shake everything they thought they knew. A secret that had been buried for 5 years. A truth that would test every bond they'd formed and force them all to make impossible choices. The storm was just beginning, and Maya was about to find herself right in the center of it. Maya woke to the sound of raised voices. Her neck was stiff from sleeping in the chair, and for a moment she couldn't remember where she was. Then she saw the 2 empty beds, and everything came rushing back. Christopher and Philip, the mansion, the rescue. The boys were gone. Maya jumped up, her heart racing, and ran toward the voices. She found everyone in Richard's study. Christopher and Philip were sitting on a leather couch, looking small and scared. Richard stood by the window, his face pale. Grandma Betty sat in a chair looking worried. And standing in the middle of the room was a woman Maya had never seen before. She was tall, elegant, probably in her mid-40s, wearing an expensive suit. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes were cold as ice as they swept over everyone in the room. "I don't care what you think you know," the woman was saying to Richard. "Those boys are mine, both of them, and I'm taking them home today. Over my dead body," Richard said, his voice dangerous. "I don't know who you are or what you think you're doing, but those are my sons, my blood, and they're not going anywhere." "Your sons?" The woman laughed, but it wasn't a nice laugh. "Mr. Harrington, you have no idea what's really going on, do you? You think this is about a simple kidnapping? About Patricia's greed? This is so much bigger than that." Agent Chen stepped forward from where she'd been standing by the door. "Miss Walker, I've asked you nicely to leave. We can do this the easy way or the hard way." "The legal way," the woman, Miss Walker, corrected. "My name is Diana Walker. I'm an attorney, and I represent the biological mother of these 2 boys. She wants them back, and according to the law, she has every right to them." The room went silent. Maya felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. "What are you talking about?" Maya demanded. "Their mother died. Richard's wife died 5 years ago in a car accident." Diana smiled, and it was the coldest smile Maya had ever seen. "Did she? Or is that just what everyone was told?" Richard looked like he'd been punched. "My wife is dead. I went to her funeral. I buried her. What kind of sick game is this?" "No game," Diana said, pulling papers from her briefcase. "Just facts. Your wife, Catherine Harrington, did not die in that car accident. She survived. Barely, but she survived. And when she woke up in the hospital, she made a choice. A choice to disappear. To let you think she was dead while she started a new life somewhere else." "That's impossible," Richard whispered. "I identified her body. I saw her." "You saw what they wanted you to see," Diana said. "A closed casket. Ashes, you were told, were hers. But Catherine Harrington is alive. She's been alive this whole time, and she wants her sons back." Christopher made a small sound. Philip started crying. Maya wanted to scream that this couldn't be true, that it was some cruel trick, but Agent Chen's face told her everything she needed to know. This woman wasn't lying. "I need proof," Richard said, his voice shaking. "I need to see her, talk to her. This can't be real." "She'll meet with you," Diana said. "But not here. Not yet. First, we need to establish custody. Catherine has rights, constitutional rights, to her children, and she's been denied those rights for 5 years because of a conspiracy she had nothing to do with. If she's alive, where has she been?" Maya asked, finding her voice. "Why didn't she come back? Why let everyone think she was dead?" Diana's expression softened slightly. "That's Catherine's story to tell. But I will say this, she had reasons, good reasons. Reasons that kept her safe and kept these boys safe, even if they didn't know it." "I don't believe you," Richard said. "Catherine would never abandon her children. Never. She loved Christopher more than anything. And if she knew about Philip, she didn't know about Philip, Diana interrupted. Not until a few weeks ago. When Christopher was kidnapped, it made national news. Catherine saw the reports, saw her son's face on television. And she made the hardest decision of her life. She decided to come back, to risk everything to save her boys. But by the time she made contact with the authorities, Christopher had escaped. He'd found his way to Miss Johnson here, and Catherine decided to wait, to make sure the situation was safe before revealing herself. Wait for what? Richard demanded. Wait for what exactly? For all the conspirators to be caught, Diana said. For Patricia and the doctor and everyone else involved in Philip's disappearance to be arrested. Catherine knew there were people who wanted to hurt this family. She couldn't come back until she was sure those people couldn't hurt her sons. Agent Chen stepped forward. I've verified her story. Catherine Harrington is alive. She's been living under a different name in Oregon for the past 5 years. She has documentation, medical records from the accident, witness statements. It all checks out. Richard collapsed into his chair like someone had cut his strings. Catherine. My Catherine is alive. She was never your Catherine, Diana said sharply. That's something you need to understand. Catherine left for a reason. Multiple reasons. And one of those reasons was you. Me? Richard looked up, confusion and hurt on his face. What did I do? That's not my story to tell either. Diana said. But Mr. Harrington, those papers you signed after Catherine's death, the ones about Christopher's inheritance, Catherine knows about them. She knew about them before she left. And they terrified her. Maya watched understanding dawn on Richard's face, followed by horror. She saw those papers. She thought, oh God. She thought I wanted Christopher dead. That, I'd hurt our son for money. Can you blame her? Diana asked quietly. You were drunk constantly. Angry. Violent sometimes, according to witnesses. You threw things. Broke furniture. Screamed at staff. Catherine was scared of what you might become. Scared of what you might do. So when the opportunity presented itself after the accident, she took it. She let everyone think she died, and she disappeared. I would never have hurt Christopher, Richard said, tears streaming down his face. Never. I was grieving. I was self-destructive. But I would have died before I let anything happen to my son. She knows that now, Diana said. Years of therapy and distance have given her perspective. She knows you're not the monster she feared. But that doesn't change what she wants. She wants her sons. Both of them. And legally, she has a strong case. No, Christopher's voice was small but firm. He stood up from the couch, holding Philip's hand. No, we're not going anywhere. We just got home. We just found Father again. You can't take us away. Diana's expression softened as she looked at the boys. Christopher, Philip, I know this is scary, but your mother loves you. She's been looking for you, waiting for you. She wants to take care of you. Father takes care of us, Christopher said. And Maya, and Grandma Betty. We have a family. We don't need another one. But she's your mother, Diana said gently. She carried you for 9 months. She gave birth to you. She has rights. She left us, Philip said suddenly, his voice harsh. Maya realized it was the first time she'd heard Philip sound angry instead of scared. She let Father think she was dead. She let me get stolen and kept in a basement for 5 years. What kind of mother does that? A mother who was trying to protect you, Diana said. A mother who made hard choices in impossible situations. Philip, she didn't know about you. If she had, she would have moved heaven and earth to find you. How do we know that? Philip demanded. How do we know she's not lying? How do we know this isn't another trick? Another bad person trying to take us away? Diana had no answer for that. The room fell into heavy silence. Finally, Richard spoke. I want to see her, Catherine. I want to talk to her face to face. If she's really alive, if she really wants the boys, she can tell me herself. She's willing to meet, Diana said. Tomorrow. Neutral location. Supervised by Agent Chen and myself. Just you and Catherine. The boys will stay here with Miss Johnson until custody is determined. Custody? Richard's voice rose. This isn't a divorce proceeding. Catherine was declared legally dead. I'm the sole parent. Sole guardian. You can't just waltz in here and demand my children. She can petition the court, Diana said. And given that she's the biological mother, given that she's been searching for her children, given that she had legitimate reasons for hiding, most judges would side with her. This can be easy, Mr. Harrington, or it can be ugly. Your choice. It's not his choice, Maya said, surprising herself with her boldness. It's their choice. She pointed at Christopher and Philip. They're the ones who've been through hell. They're the ones who were kidnapped and traumatized and hurt. They should get a say in what happens next. They're 5 years old, Diana said. They're not old enough to make these decisions. They're old enough to know who they feel safe with, Maya shot back. They're old enough to know who they trust. And right now, they trust Richard. They trust us. You can't just rip them away from that because their maybe mother suddenly decides she wants to play parent. Diana's eyes flashed with anger. You're a 17-year-old girl. You have no authority here, no legal standing. This is between Richard Harrington and Catherine Harrington. My name is Catherine Reed now, a voice said from the doorway. Everyone turned. Standing there was a woman who looked like an older, sadder version of the photos Maya had seen of Richard's wife. She had the same dark hair, though now streaked with gray. The same delicate features, but her eyes were haunted, and her face showed lines of suffering that hadn't been there in the old pictures. Catherine, Richard breathed, standing up so fast his chair fell over. It's really you. You're really alive. Catherine took a step into the room, and Maya saw she was shaking. Hello, Richard. It's been a long time. 5 years, Richard said. 5 years, you let me think you were dead. 5 years of grief and guilt and agony. Why? Why did you do this to me? Because I was scared, Catherine said simply. Scared of you, scared for Christopher, scared of what our life had become. The accident gave me a way out, and I took it. I'm not proud of that decision, but I thought I was protecting our son. By abandoning him? Richard's voice broke. By letting him grow up thinking his mother was dead? By keeping him away from your drinking and your anger, Catherine shot back. By making sure he didn't watch you destroy yourself. And I was right to be scared, wasn't I? Look what happened. Look where we are. Christopher was kidnapped, almost killed. And Philip, she looked at the twin she'd never known, tears streaming down her face. My baby. My other baby. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know. Philip pressed himself against Maya, clearly frightened by this strange woman. Christopher looked torn, like part of him wanted to run to his mother, and part of him wanted to run away. Catherine, Richard said more gently. If you're back, if you're really here, we need to talk. Really talk. About everything. About what happened. About the boys. About what happens next. I know, Catherine said. But Richard, you need to understand something. I'm not coming back to you. We're not going to be a family again. That ship sailed a long time ago. I want my sons. I want to take them back to Oregon with me. I have a life there. A home, a job, stability. I can give them what they need. They have stability here, Richard said. They have me. They have Maya and Betty. They have each other. You can't just take them away from that. Watch me, Catherine said, her voice hardening. I'm their mother. I have rights. And I've spoken to lawyers. I have a very strong case. Those boys are coming with me whether you like it or not. No, Christopher shouted, surprising everyone. No, I don't want to go. I don't even know you. You're a stranger. Father isn't a stranger. Maya isn't a stranger. You are. Catherine looked like she'd been slapped. Christopher. Baby, I'm your mother. I know I left, but I had reasons. I don't care about your reasons, Christopher yelled. You left. You let me think you were dead. Do you know how much that hurt? Do you know how many nights I cried because I missed you? And now you just show up and want to take us away like nothing happened? No, I won't go. You can't make me. Christopher, please. Catherine reached for him, but Christopher jerked back. Don't touch me. I don't want you. I want to stay here. With Father, with Maya, with the people who actually stayed. Philip was crying now, overwhelmed by the shouting and emotion. Maya pulled both boys close, her own heart breaking. This was a nightmare. An absolute nightmare. That's enough, Agent Chen said firmly. Everyone needs to calm down. Catherine, you can't just barge in here making demands. There's a legal process. Richard, you need to understand, Catherine has legitimate claims. And these boys need to not be in the middle of an adult fight. Everyone take a breath. I want them overnight, Catherine said suddenly. Let me take them to my hotel. Let them spend time with me. Get to know me again. Then we can talk about long-term plans. Absolutely not, Richard said immediately. They're traumatized. They need stability. They're not going anywhere with someone they don't know. I'm not someone. I'm their mother. You're a stranger who claims to be their mother, Richard countered. For all I know, this is another scheme, another plot. How do I know you're really Catherine? How do I know this isn't some elaborate con? DNA test, Agent Chen said. We can have results in 24 hours. Catherine has already provided samples. We just need samples from the boys to confirm. Richard, I understand your skepticism, but she has documentation, photos, memories, details only Catherine Harrington would know. I believe she's telling the truth. I don't care if she is telling the truth, Richard said desperately. My sons need stability, consistency, not to be uprooted again. Catherine, if you really love them, you'll understand that. You'll take this slow. Build a relationship first, before making demands. Catherine looked at her sons, at these two small boys who were clinging to a teenage girl instead of running to her, and something in her expression cracked. You're right. I'm sorry. I'm pushing too hard. I've missed so much. 5 years of Christopher's life. All of Philip's life. I want to make up for lost time. You can't make up for lost time, Maya said quietly. You can only move forward. And that means putting what the boys need first. Not what you want. Not what you missed. What they need. Catherine looked at Maya, really looked at her for the first time. Who are you to tell me what my sons need? I'm the person who kept Christopher safe when he escaped, Maya said, meeting Catherine's eyes steadily. I'm the person who got him to talk when he wouldn't talk to anyone else. I'm the person who figured out Philip existed. I'm the person these boys trust. That's who I am. You're a child yourself, Catherine said dismissively. I'm someone who showed up, Maya said, which is more than I can say for you. The room went deadly silent. Catherine's face flushed with anger. Richard looked shocked. Agent Chen looked like she wanted to intervene but didn't know how. Finally, Catherine spoke, her voice ice cold. Fine. Have it your way. We'll do this legally. I'll file for custody. I'll get a court order, and then those boys will come with me whether they want to or not. Because I'm their mother, and the law is on my side. She turned and walked out, Diana hurrying after her. The door slammed behind them, and the silence they left was deafening. Christopher and Philip were both crying. Richard looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Grandma Betty had her hand over her mouth, eyes wide with shock. And Maya stood there, holding two boys who were shaking with fear and confusion, and realized she'd just made a powerful enemy. But she didn't regret her words. Someone needed to stand up for these children. Someone needed to put them first, even if it meant going to war with their own mother. What do we do? Richard asked helplessly. How do I fight this? How do I keep my sons? We get lawyers, Agent Chen said. Good ones. We document everything. We show that the boys are thriving here, that they're safe and happy and healing. We build a case that moving them would be harmful. It's not hopeless, Richard, but it's going to be a fight. I'll fight, Richard said with absolute certainty. I'll fight with everything I have. Nobody takes my sons. Nobody. Christopher pulled away from Maya and walked to his father. Richard dropped to his knees, and Christopher wrapped his arms around his neck. Don't let her take us, Father. Please. We want to stay with you. I won't let her, Richard promised, holding his son tight. I swear it. But Maya saw the fear in Richard's eyes, saw the doubt, because they all knew the truth. Mothers had rights. Biological parents had power. And Catherine Harrington, now Catherine Reed, had the law on her side. The battle for Christopher and Philip had just begun. And Maya had a sinking feeling it was going to get much worse before it got better. That night, after the boys finally fell asleep, Maya sat in the garden behind Richard's mansion. She needed air, needed space, needed to think. Grandma Betty found her there, sitting on a stone bench under the stars. You okay, baby? Grandma Betty asked, sitting beside her. I don't know, Maya admitted. Grandma, what if we lose them? What if Catherine wins and takes them away? They're just starting to heal. just starting to feel safe. Moving them now would destroy all that progress. Then we make sure that doesn't happen. Grandma Betty said firmly. We fight. We document everything. We show any judge who'll listen that those boys belong here, with their father, with us. Catherine is their mother, Maya said. What if she's right? What if legally, morally, they should be with her? Maya Johnson, Grandma Betty said sternly, you listen to me. Being a mother is more than biology. It's about showing up, being there, making sacrifices. Catherine left. Whatever her reasons, she left. You didn't leave. Richard didn't leave. We've been here, taking care of those boys, helping them heal. That matters. That counts for something. I hope you're right, Maya said. I know I'm right, Grandma Betty said. And Maya, those boys love you. They trust you. You've become like a big sister to them. That's not nothing. That's everything. Maya leaned against her grandmother, exhausted and scared, but also determined. She'd saved Christopher once. She'd helped save Philip. She wasn't about to let them be taken away now. But as she looked up at the mansion, at the window of the room where the twins slept, Maya made herself a promise. Whatever happened in the coming custody battle, whatever courts decided or lawyers argued, she would make sure Christopher and Philip knew they were loved, that they were wanted, that they had people fighting for them. Even if one of those people was their own mother fighting against them. The war had begun. And Maya Johnson was going to make sure the right side won, even if she had to sacrifice everything to do it. The courthouse was cold and intimidating, with marble columns and echoing hallways that made Maya feel small. She sat on a bench outside the courtroom holding Christopher's hand while Philip pressed against her other side. Richard paced nearby, his expensive suit looking rumpled, his face drawn with exhaustion. It had been 2 weeks since Catherine's appearance, 2 weeks of legal motions, and emergency hearings, and constant uncertainty. The DNA tests had confirmed it. Catherine Reed was indeed Catherine Harrington, the boy's biological mother, very much alive. Now Judge Morrison would decide where Christopher and Philip would live, who they would call family, what their future would be. I'm scared, Christopher whispered to Maya. What if the judge says we have to go with her? Then we'll figure it out, Maya said, though her own stomach was in knots. But Christopher, no matter what happens, you and Philip will be together. That's what matters most. I want to stay with Father, Philip said quietly. And with you. Why can't we just stay? Before Maya could answer, the courtroom doors opened. A bailiff called them inside. Maya held both boys' hands as they walked into the room that would determine their fate. The courtroom was smaller than Maya expected from TV shows. Judge Morrison was a black woman in her 60s, with kind eyes but a stern expression. She looked at everyone carefully as they took their seats, Richard and his lawyers on one side, Catherine and Diana Walker on the other. The boys sitting with Maya in the middle, literally caught between their parents. This is an unusual case, Judge Morrison began after everyone was settled. We have a mother who was declared dead, who let everyone believe she was dead, suddenly reappearing and demanding custody. We have a father who thought he was a widower, raising one son, who now discovers he has twins and his wife is alive. And we have 2 traumatized boys who've been through extraordinary circumstances. This court's only concern is what's best for Christopher and Philip, not what's fair to the adults, not what anyone deserves, only what serves these children. Catherine's lawyer stood. Your Honor, Catherine Reed is the biological mother. She had legitimate fears for her safety and her son's safety when she went into hiding. The law recognizes that mothers have fundamental rights to their children. We're asking for full custody with supervised visitation for Mr. Harrington. Richard's lawyer, a sharp woman named Jennifer Price, stood immediately. Your Honor, Catherine Harrington abandoned her child. She let him believe she was dead for 5 years. That's psychological abuse. And she had no relationship with Philip at all. Meanwhile, Richard Harrington has been a devoted father. The boys are thriving in his care. Moving them now would cause irreparable harm. I didn't abandon Christopher, Catherine said, her voice shaking. I was protecting him from a dangerous situation, from Richard's drinking and violence. I was never violent, Richard said firmly. I threw things, I broke furniture, but I never hurt anyone, never threatened anyone. Catherine is exaggerating to justify her abandonment. Mr. Harrington, Judge Morrison said sharply, you'll have your turn to speak. Miss Reed, you'll provide evidence of this alleged danger. I won't make decisions based on accusations. For the next 2 hours, lawyers presented evidence. Catherine's medical records from the accident, showing severe injuries. Witness statements about Richard's drinking after his wife's death. Photos of damage Richard had caused during his grief. But also evidence of Richard's recovery, his sobriety for the past 4 years, his devotion to Christopher. Then came the psychologists. Both boys had been evaluated. The reports were devastating to read. Christopher had PTSD from the kidnapping. Philip had even worse trauma from 5 years of captivity. Both boys showed anxiety about separation from Richard and Maya. Both boys showed fear and distrust toward Catherine. The boys need stability, Dr. Patterson, their therapist, testified. They need consistent, loving care from people they trust. Moving them now, forcing them to live with someone they perceive as a stranger, could set their recovery back months or even years. But I'm not a stranger, Catherine said desperately when it was her turn to speak. I'm their mother. They just need time to remember. Time to know me again. Miss Reed, Judge Morrison said gently, I understand this is painful, but from these boys' perspective, you are a stranger. Christopher was 2 when you left. He has almost no memories of you. Philip never knew you at all. The bond has been broken. Whether that's your fault or not is irrelevant. The question is whether it can be repaired, and whether attempting to repair it serves the boys' best interests. It can be repaired, Catherine insisted. Children are resilient. They forgive. They adapt. I'm their mother. That has to count for something. It counts for a great deal, Judge Morrison said. But it's not the only factor. Mr. Harrington, do you have anything to add before I hear from the children? Richard stood. Your Honor, I loved my wife. When I thought she died, I fell apart. I made mistakes. Drank too much. Broke things. Said things I regret. But I never hurt my son. Never. And when I got sober, I became the father Christopher deserved. These past 2 weeks with both boys have been the best of my life. I'm learning who Philip is. I'm watching them heal together. They're brothers. They're best friends. They need each other. And Your Honor, they've made it very clear they need Maya Johnson too. She's become essential to their healing. Whatever you decide, I'm begging you to keep that relationship intact. Judge Morrison nodded. Which brings me to Miss Johnson. Young lady, would you approach the bench? Maya's heart hammered as she stood and walked forward. She'd never been this nervous in her life. Yes, Your Honor? You're 17 years old. You have no legal relationship to these boys. Yet both psychologists' reports say you're the person they trust most in the world. Explain that to me. Maya took a deep breath. I was the first safe person Christopher met after he escaped. I didn't ask him questions he couldn't answer. I didn't push him. I just gave him food and safety and time. He learned he could trust me. And when we discovered Philip, Christopher wanted me there because he knew Philip would be scared. Philip trusted me because Christopher did. It's that simple. And if the boys go with their mother to Oregon, what happens to you? Maya felt tears threaten but pushed them back. Then, I hope Catherine lets me stay in touch. Lets me call and visit. Because those boys have been through enough. They shouldn't lose another person they care about. You'd give them up, even though you clearly love them? It's not about what I want, Maya said, echoing her own words from weeks ago. It's about what they need. If they need me to step aside, I will. If they need me to fight, I'll fight. Whatever serves them best. Judge Morrison studied Maya for a long moment. Sit down, Miss Johnson. Now, I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to speak with Christopher and Philip directly, in my chambers, privately. I need to hear from them without parents or lawyers influencing their answers. Catherine looked panicked. Your Honor, they're so young. They don't understand. They're old enough to express their feelings, Judge Morrison said firmly. And I'm experienced in talking with traumatized children. This is happening. Bailiff, please bring the boys to my chambers. 20 minutes passed. Maya paced in the hallway with Grandma Betty. Richard sat with his head in his hands. Catherine cried quietly. Diana trying to comfort her. Nobody spoke. Everyone just waited. Finally, the bailiff called them back in. Christopher and Philip returned to their seats, both looking tired. Judge Morrison looked serious as she sat down. I've made my decision, she said. And I want to be clear, this is temporary. We'll revisit in 6 months to see how things are progressing. But for now, primary custody goes to Richard Harrington. Catherine gasped. Diana started to protest, but Judge Morrison held up her hand. Miss Reed, I believe you love your sons. I believe you had reasons for your choices. But those boys have been through trauma we can barely comprehend. They need stability. They need people they trust. And right now, they don't trust you. That's not a judgment on your character. It's just reality. You'll have supervised visitation, 3 times a week to start. We'll increase it gradually if things go well. But I will not force these children to live with someone they fear. I don't want them to fear me, Catherine said, tears streaming down her face. I just want them back. Then earn their trust, Judge Morrison said, not unkindly. Show them through actions, not words, that you're safe, that you're reliable, that you're the mother they need. But Miss Reed, you need to understand something. These boys have a family now. Richard, Maya, Betty, they've built something. You can be part of that family if you choose, or you can fight it and lose your sons completely. The choice is yours. Judge Morrison looked at Maya. Miss Johnson, I'm ordering that you maintain regular contact with the boys. At least 3 times a week in person. Daily phone calls if possible. Your relationship with them is therapeutic. It's healing. Don't let adult drama interfere with that. I won't, Your Honor, Maya promised. And Mr. Harrington, I'm ordering family therapy. For you, for the boys, and for Miss Reed. You're going to learn to co-parent whether you like it or not. These boys need both parents, assuming Miss Reed can prove she's safe and trustworthy. Am I clear? Yes, Your Honor, Richard said, relief and gratitude evident in his voice. Judge Morrison turned to the boys. Christopher, Philip, I know this is confusing, but here's what's going to happen. You're going to keep living with your father and visiting with Maya, but you're also going to spend time with your mother, getting to know her, maybe learning to love her again. That doesn't mean forgetting the past. It means moving forward. Can you try to do that? Christopher looked at Philip. Philip looked at Christopher. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, Christopher said, If Maya says it's okay, if she thinks we should try. Everyone looked at Maya, this 17-year-old girl who'd somehow become the center of everything, the person these boys trusted most in the world. You should try, Maya said gently. Your mother made mistakes. But she's here now. She's trying. And maybe, if you give her a chance, you'll get something good out of it. But boys, here's the important part. You don't have to love her right away. You don't have to forgive her right away. You just have to give her a chance. Can you do that? The twins nodded slowly. Catherine looked at Maya with an expression that was equal parts gratitude and resentment. Gratitude that Maya had convinced the boys to try. Resentment that Maya had that power when Catherine herself didn't. Court is adjourned, Judge Morrison said. I'll see all of you in my office in 2 weeks to establish a visitation schedule. And Miss Reed, don't make me regret giving you this opportunity. Those boys are my priority. Not your feelings, not your rights, them. Remember that. They filed out of the courtroom. In the hallway, Catherine approached Maya. Up close, she looked tired and sad and broken. Thank you, Catherine said quietly, for telling them to give me a chance. You didn't have to do that. I did it for them, not for you, Maya said honestly. They deserve to know their mother, to make their own decision about whether they want you in their lives. But Miss Reed, Catherine, whatever I should call you, if you hurt those boys again, if you let them down, I will make sure you never get another chance. I don't care about courts or custody or legal rights. Those boys are my family now, and I protect my family. Catherine looked at this teenage girl who'd become a tiger protecting 2 cubs that weren't even hers. I believe you. And Maya, I'm not the enemy. I know it feels like I am, but I'm not. I just want my sons back. Then prove it, Maya said. Show up. Be consistent. Be patient. Be what they need, not what you want. That's what being a parent means. Catherine nodded slowly and walked away with Diana. Richard came over and pulled Maya in.